That farm my parents bought when I was like 3 years old. It's an 80-acre farm. There was no electricity on it when my parents bought it. My dad wired the house, the barn, the shed, the garage, the granary, the whole works. My father was born in 1895. He actually served in the First World War. He walked all the way through France, fighting battles into Germany. The man had a 7th grade education. He could do everything. I mean, we used to overhaul. We had 2 small Ford tractors, and we would overhaul one of them every year. So the house, he remodeled it completely, built kitchen cabinets. And when we bought the house, it didn't have electricity, like I said. Obviously, it didn't have indoor plumbing. So we had an outhouse for, 4 years after, 5 years. So I can remember helping him put the bathroom in. So the guy was amazing. And my mother, she was 10 years younger than my father. I think she went to like sophomore in 10th grade, something like that. I actually started driving tractor, physically driving a tractor when I was 5 years old. I started milking cows when I was 6. 3 of us guys graduated from high school Sunday. Monday morning, we left for Indiana Harbor, which is the bottom of Lake Michigan. Worked at a steel mill, Youngstown Sheet and Tube. Worked there for about 3 months, and then I went back up north with my parents, lived with them for another over 2 months. There was a employment guy from Rex Chain Belt up in Marinette. So I went and applied there, and Lee Davis, I think was the guy's name, and he says, "Come on down, we'll have a job for you." Came down, that was on a Thursday or Friday. I came down the following Monday, and they offered me a job there. I think I started there in November. So the very first night there, second shift, Bob Cody was my foreman. He says, "Go to the tool crib, check out a welding helmet, chipping hammer, get some gloves." He says, "Go over there by Wally Newman." So I says, "Bob, I never welded." And the funny part was my father had a small welding machine on the farm. And whenever he'd do any repairing, he would say, "Dave, I don't want you in here. Arc flash would be bad for your eyes." So I listened to him. But, that's how I started in the welding business, just there. And then 2 months later, they talked me into taking an apprenticeship. And working the apprenticeship and making, not a whole lot of money. I always worked part-time. So I had 3 companies that I worked part-time for, on and off, all offered me full-time jobs. And one of them was supervisor of a metal fabricating shop, and that's where I went and stayed there for 2 years, 9-10 months, something like that, and ran the shop, did a lot of the estimating, a lot of the purchasing, hiring, firing, inspection, shipping, receiving. And at one time we had 43 people, so it was a lot of work. I got one heck of an education there. And I got a phone call from one of the companies I was doing work for at this other job shop that I left. And he says, "Dave," he says, "it doesn't look good at Accurate." He says, "I'm gonna need somebody to do these parts." And so I told him, "I don't have a place to do it." And he says, "Do it in your garage." I says, "I live in West Dallas. The lots are like 30 foot by 120. I says, "Neighbors aren't gonna like it. They ain't gonna accept it." And so the 5th call, he finally talked me into it. So I leased, purchased a welding machine. I went to the bank and borrowed $800 for buying some initial setup tools and stuff like that, and rented an area probably about a third of the size of this office. And that's where I started in business.
He rented a small garage. He bought a welder, bought a grinder, and he started getting additional help and started taking loans out, borrowing money to get to where he is now. It's crazy to think that a little rental garage turned into a 3-plant facility stationed here in Waukesha and Slinger.
When I incorporated, I actually applied for Wisconsin Fab first. But there was a company, I think in Green Bay, that already had that name. So that came back. And at the time we were doing all different alloys, you know, carbon, steel, stainless, aluminum. So that's why I come up with Weldall.
You know, we first started coming to work with our father at 11 for me, and for my brother it was 9. And the cool thing at that time, not only to spend time with our dad, you know, we'd get up early like on Saturday mornings and go in. It's still dark and stuff, but the cool thing, other than hanging out with Dad, was we'd always stop and get sweet rolls. You know, so we'd get a sweet roll, you know, and the guys at work, of course, you know, they like sweet rolls as well. So, you know, it was a very young age that we started to do that stuff. And as far as an education in manufacturing for both my brother and myself, I mean, we learned on the ground floor at a very young age, and you know, it wasn't all my dad that, you know, mentored us and taught us. A lot of the guys on the shop floor that are here today even.
When I started at Weldall, it was a little Quonset hut and approximately 15,000 square foot. We did everything in this first building that he had. We did everything with a fork truck. There were no overhead cranes. The fork truck could lift 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. I mean, we did everything with that fork truck. That was our crane, that was our material handling. Now we have cranes out there, overhead cranes that can lift up to, you know, 2 100-ton cranes that can lift 200,000 pounds each.
You know, at one point my dad made all the decisions. And at one point he did everything. And, you know, so he knows a lot of this stuff. And, you know, with him kind of setting that bar high, and what the expectation was for all of us was very important. So, you know, over the years, as he's mentored us in how he runs business, you know, that goes through middle management to the floor everywhere, and you know, that's how we run today.
They've been with me over 40 years. It's funny, you know, we actually, a lot of times we think alike. I'm thinking of something, and we're in a conversation with a customer or whoever, and Dave or Dan are talking, and they'll ask the question that I was going to ask. I mean, I don't know if our brain waves, you know, go back and forth or what, but we tend to think a lot alike. They're good kids, most of them.
So what I'd want people to know about my dad is that he is the hardest working guy in any company, in any boardroom there is. He gives 110% in what he believes in. He's very open to input from people, very honest. He's the most humble person you're gonna bump into. I mean, he doesn't need the titles of president, ownership, stuff like that.
Like I said in the beginning, it all boils down to people, whether it's family or employees or customers. I think an order, to get an order, constitutes 3 things. They don't always run in this order, but it's price, quality, and delivery. As far as I'm concerned, quality is number 1. If you don't have the quality, what good is it? I mean, you can deliver it 10 days early, but if it has to be reworked or it's not any good, you know, you're going to get it back. So that's part of your reputation. You need good quality to get to trust you, and you do good work.
Our goal and what we drive Weldall from the sales aspect, where they're communicating and working with our customers, all the way down to engineering, quality, operations. We want them to have a relationship with our customer, be very truthful, be very honest, and I think, you know, having those kind of conversations, you earn respect.
So Weldall's demonstrated their flexibility, and that's really one of our key pillars here is agility in our supply chain. Weldall has been able to respond to less than lead time orders in many cases. And an example would be the long history we have with our 320 XPC drill product line. Weldall has been supporting the fabrication of those structures for many, many years. And recently we have requested of Weldall to also take on some of the assembly, in many cases complete modules such as the mast and the rear deck for that. And they have been very willing to work with us, actually have engineers spend time on our production floor, Komatsu spending time on their production floor.
The equipment we have obviously gives us a lot of abilities that others don't have. But I think more importantly is our ability to understand different requirements and take the extra steps when it makes sense to both the customer and us to meet those types of requirements that nobody else will do. We will take on new certification requirements. We'll take on, for instance, when I first came here, we didn't do any vacuum type chamber welding where we had to actually suck down a chamber to space levels of vacuum. We investigated that, we found out how to do that, and now we do it all the time. So the ability to be flexible with new requirements, I think, is really what we are experts at. Dave
Senior, his philosophy is, if he doesn't invest in the technology and in the future, someone else will. So I'm pleased to say that we've always been blessed with working with the latest and greatest equipment and technology that is out there.
Once the customers walk through the shop, it's pretty much, you've got a customer for life. So they make it very easy. They've done a very good job of setting up Weldall for success. We've got one of the biggest lasers in North America. We've got 2 presses now that are probably the biggest in the Midwest, and they're always looking to bring on more capabilities.
We've been working with Weldall for over 20 years. Initially, we outsourced tanks that exceeded our in-house production capabilities. We rely on Weldall to produce a high-quality product for us. The tank is the one thing that our end customer sees. Transformers have to work, but when a customer sees a transformer, they're seeing the tank. And so the quality of the tank reflects on our quality.
Once I met the family and the other management team here during one of my first interviews, they really made you feel welcome.
It's beautiful for me to be involved with a company like this because they do care a lot. When I walk through the door, I actually enjoy coming more to work than I do just about anything else.
The main thing, especially when I started, the big thing was that you actually see ownership out on the floor. They come up and talk to you, not even just about work, but what's going on outside of work. We talk about hunting, obviously, and stuff like that. So that was really huge to me, that you actually saw who was signing your paychecks and they actually care enough to come up and talk to you on a regular basis, and you see them out on the floor.
I've been at Weldall for it'll be 2 years in October. It has been an amazing experience. I have so many people who have helped me grow. I've learned so much about myself as a person. I've learned more about welding. I've learned what it means to actually be a help to others, the definition of teamwork.
On behalf of ProLec GE Waukesha, I'd like to congratulate Weldall on 50 years of service to their employees, customers, and the community.
Komatsu just celebrated a 100-year anniversary, and the P&H product line 135 years a few years ago. Weldall has been with us for much of that journey, and we extend our sincere congratulations to Weldall in achieving this significant milestone, and we look forward to the next 50 years of continuing to work with Weldall in our strong relationship.
It just shows how long the company's been in business and where they started from and where they are now, and I only see them getting bigger and growing even more, and I'm glad to be along for the ride.
The future for Weldall is to put in another 50 great years that they already have done. So that's pretty much it.
Having a company that's been around for 50 years is a huge asset, especially when you can say that the company has basically grown every single year that it's been in business. Just a great place to work, great place to be. Looking forward to the next 50.
We support a lot of families here that support us, and it takes a team and a family, and all of our employees here are all family. They're family to us. And we look to support them the same way as my grandpa did and my dad's doing, and I plan to do the same thing.
This is a big deal. And when you look back of all the people that you worked with to get here, and the customers and the relationships and the vendors, You know, it is a huge achievement. You know, we're aligning ourselves up for beyond 50 years. You know, are we looking at 100 someday? I'll never see that, but we're definitely setting the company up to go more long term.
I'm kind of a workaholic. I enjoy it here. Working with the family, told the sons, Tori, a lot of great people. I don't know. You always try to do better, you know, and I think we've done that.